A CBP officer
was arrested in El Paso with connection to La Linea cartel. For those who don't know, La Linea is a armed group from the Juarez cartel who basically does all the dirty work for the Juarez cartel. They're also starting to get bigger and stronger, so eventually they'll probably overthrow the Juarez cartel like every other armed group does to the group that founded them. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer was allegedly involved in migrant smuggling on the El Paso border and was allegedly a member of the Mexican drug cartel that's known as La Linea. A federal agent testified against him. A federal magistrate judge ordered the CBP officer Manuel Perez Jr., 32 years of age, of El Paso to remain jailed without bond at a detention hearing on Thursday, February 13. In federal court in downtown El Paso. Perez is allegedly a member of the Linea drug cartel. Perez was fired from CBP after his arrest on federal human and drug smuggling charges on February 8th by the FBI in El Paso, West Texas Border Corruption Task Force. Following a multi-agency investigation, court officials said if convicted, he could face 10 years up to life in prison. Multiple witnesses said he belonged to the Linea cartel in Mexico. A special agent with the CBP Office of Professional Responsibility testified at the hearing. Perez allegedly told investigators that he was being paid $2,500 for each undocumented person he allowed to pass at his inspection lane. At the El Paso del Norte International Bridge in downtown El Paso, the special agent testified. The exact number of smuggled persons Perez waved through his border inspection point is unclear. The prosecution said that Perez may have been paid as much as $400,000 in border migrant smuggling scheme dating back to December 2023. A cocaine distribution conspiracy case dates from February 5th going back to November 2019, according to his indictment. Smugglers who were intercepted with phone calls were allegedly heard speaking about 100% guaranteed crossings because they had the officer in their pocket. The agents testified against him. The name of the others involved in the smuggling has not been disclosed. Some smugglers in Juarez had their phone call intercepted, and the smugglers can be heard saying that their package is 100% guaranteed to cross because they have an officer in their pocket. Perez is a U.S. citizen. He is born in California. His attorney said he has no past in criminal history and no issues with the drugs or alcohol. Perez has an apartment in El Paso and was also renting a home in Juarez. The assistant U.S. attorney, John S. Johnston, painted an image of a U.S. federal agent affiliated with La Linea, a regional crime organization more commonly known as the Juarez drug cartel. The special agent with the CBP Office of Professional Responsibilities testified that witnesses told investigators that Perez was always armed with a firearm in bars and nightclubs in Mexico, and even when he was asleep. Witnesses claimed Perez had an armed security with them at all times in Mexico. The claim has been corroborated by photos, the agent claims. A witness told investigators that Perez had stated that if he were ever to be arrested, that he would prefer to be arrested in Mexico so that he could continue his criminal activity in jail, the special agent said. So this guy is just acting with pure impunity. He thinks he's just going to keep getting away with this stuff. He thinks that he was just going to be the top dog somewhere in Mexico without nobody knowing that he has two lives going on. It's just insane. The special agent said that the CBP investigators used a database of recorded border crossings to determine that Perez spent more than 80% of his time in Mexico while he was not at work in El Paso. His lawyer claimed that he used to spend a lot of time in Juarez because he used to have a girlfriend there. As part of the investigation, U.S. federal agents contacted Mexican agents who found $18,000 in cash after serving a search warrant at Perez's home in Juarez. By all measures, he lives in Mexico, Johnston said of Perez, mentioning that the rest of the suspected corrupt officers' smuggling profits are unaccounted for. The indictment stated Perez was allegedly involved in migrant smuggling scheme at his post at the El Paso del Norte bridge, going back to early December 2023. The indictment stated that an undocumented migrant paid $16,000 to be brought across the port of entry. The investigation allegedly found Perez allowed a gray Nissan Pathfinder to cross the border with undocumented migrants several times. Perez allegedly entered information from 25 visas belonging to legal border crossers in the place of the smuggled migrants into text, formerly known as Treasury Enforcement Communication Systems, the computer systems used by the CBP at the U.S.-Mexico border to assist the screening and admissions. Texts keep track of people entering and exiting the country and those involved or suspected to be involved in crimes. So the CBP officer was basically doing fake documents or like identity theft. Basically, you showed up and he gave you another visa from another guy or claimed that this guy with another visa was passing as you. The investigation found that the persons that Perez allegedly allowed to cross the border did not match the people in the documents. The Nissan Pathfinder will take the smuggled migrants, including children, to meet up at a spot outside of the restaurant in the 7400 block of Gateway East Boulevard, the location of the Ranchland Village retail strip. The migrants would then be transported to other cities in other vehicles. The indictment makes a brief mention of a proof-of-life video taken of an undocumented person by a member of the smuggling group to provide proof of a successful smuggle into the United States. The video was not mentioned at this hearing. The investigation also found Perez and a co-conspirator in October 2023 arranged to take 8 kilos of cocaine from El Paso to Louisiana and North Carolina. The co-conspirator's information was corroborated with some records from license plate readers placed strategically across the United States that showed the vehicles travel across Texas to Louisiana to Alabama and to North Carolina. After his arrest, Perez allegedly told investigators that the smugglers had allegedly paid him $20,000 for what Perez said were 7 kilos of cocaine, and that the smuggler had a drug debt with them for the rest of the money. I kinda see him as a glorified mule who allegedly waved undocumented persons through the border checkpoint instead of some type of mastermind, the lawyer of Perez stated to the judge. A mule is a term normally used to a person to refer as them as somebody who is utilized to carry drugs across the border. Ortiz, who is known as Perez's lawyers, argued to have Perez to be released on bond, saying that he doesn't pose a danger to the public. Perez could stay under house arrest with a GPS monitor with his mother in El Paso. Ortiz added that the county jail was not a safe place for his client and that Perez waived his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and voluntarily spoke to investigators when he was arrested. Ortiz mentioned that Perez has a lot of debt but didn't go into detail. The U.S. Magistrate Judge Miguel Torres ordered Perez to remain jailed, explaining that there was no questions that Perez posed a flight risk to the amount of time he spent in Mexico, in addition to his alleged association with the Mexican cartel. And this has been the story of Perez, the CBP officer who was allegedly connected to the Linea cartel.